Welcome to the Top Order podcast. It is that time of year again. It's IPL preview time. This is episode 2 of our IPL preview for 2024. So if you haven't watched episode 1, please dip back into the back catalogue. We are recording this about a week out from the start of the tournament. So from a squad perspective, everything could change. We've already seen some withdrawals, even over the course of the last 3 or 4 days or so. Last year we saw Mumbai, Lucknow, Gujarat and Chennai in the final 4 teams, with Chennai equaling the Mumbai Indians with 5 IPL trophies. Gujarat, though, had the better record throughout the tournament in pool play, 10 wins and 4 losses compared with Chennai's 8 and 5. But I guess that's just cricket. In this preview show, which I said will come out in 2 parts. This is part 2. We're going to cover the second 5 teams today, our predictions for the tournament, and who might beat Shubman Gill and Rohit Sharma, both from the Gujarat Titans to the orange and purple caps. But we're going to talk about Mumbai. We're going to talk about Punjab Kings, Rajasthan Royals, the RCB, and the Sunrisers Hyderabad on this episode of the Top Order podcast. Stay tuned.
Swish.
Boys, episode 1 done and dusted. We're going to go with a pretty similar format, I think, for this episode 2. We're going to cover off 5 teams. We're going to put 10 minutes on the clock for each team and try and cover their strengths and weaknesses, their X-factor players, the betting, according to one bookmaker only, just to keep it consistent, Bet365, the other bookmakers, of course, available to put your hard-earned down.
Gamble responsibly.
Gamble responsibly. We will also give our individual predictions on where we think those teams will finish. We've each taken a couple of teams each throughout the course of the tournament. And then in this episode 2 as well, we are going to talk Final 4 predictions as well. And yeah, kind of really hash out who we think is going to win. When we take our heart versus head emotions out of this, I've already picked the Knight Riders to win the tournament, for example. So we will come on to that in the final part of the podcast. But episode 2 of our previous show is going to pick up with the Mumbai Indians. Some pretty big news with probably the trade of the tournament so far, maybe to talk about. But Baldy, I think you've got the Mumbai Indians.
I do.
Why are they gonna win, Michael?
Well, let's start with the top 4, shall we? The top 4 for the Mumbai Indians. Rohit?
Top 7, I think.
Well, let's just deal with the top 4 to start with, and then we can expand our search, expand our knowledge, and go from knowledge to understanding, as one of my kids' podcasts says. Rohit, Ishan, Sky, Tilak, Varma. That's all you need to know in terms of how they can win this tournament. All 4 tremendous batters, all 4 match winners, all 4 Indian players, and they have their keeper that can bat in the top 4. How long have we got to go? 9.5 minutes. I'm going to need to really stretch out the rest of my preparation. That's all I really had.
Well, and you've just moved Romario Shepherd off your
yeah, we'll come back to that. Just ignore that.
I'm sure we can fill 9 minutes talking about Hardik versus Rohit.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's pretty amazing though. And I said top 7 because you add in Hardik, who, as you say, huge trade. Obviously, was Mumbai. Went away to Gujarat. Ridiculous success rate over there. Picked up the title. Impressive stuff that I guess built on all of the leadership aspects and really showed what he can contribute from that point of view. Then we've got, someone like Nihal Wadera, who really impressed last year, and we've got Tim David in the mix as well. So their top 7, the power and the runs that group of players has in them, you're never going to feel safe as a bowling attack when you're running and trying to defend against them.
And you haven't mentioned Dewald Brevis, who is highly touted, highly credentialed young player. So, yeah, they've got no shortage of ability to score runs in the top 7. We kind of have glossed over the fact that really of those guys, only really Hardik bowls. Like Sky doesn't really bowl. I don't think Tilak Varma bowls very much. Rohit doesn't bowl. Tim David doesn't really bowl. So if Hardik doesn't bowl much in that top order, you're going to need to find a 6th option somewhere, because if those guys bat all the way down to 7, I mean, I didn't have either Dewald Brevis or the other chap that you mentioned. Yeah, I didn't have them in the first 11 because I had to basically look at that and go, well, Hardik, if he doesn't bowl much, if he only bowls 1 or 2 overs, I still need 5 bowlers. So who are my bowlers going to be? They don't have a Jadeja. They don't have a spin bowling all rounder who can bat in the top 7. That's
like a Kyron Pollard, which is your kind of direct conversation for Tim David, isn't it?
100%.
A guy with great levers, but who offers you something.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's, for me, a lot rests on the fact that Hardik is, if they can get him to bowl overs, it gives their side so much more flexibility. But they are going to need to find some overs from somewhere.
Can we talk a little bit about the auction? Because I know you and I had very different opinions on that, Raj, because, you talked about all of those, their potential weaknesses, I suppose, in some of their bowling maybe. I thought their auction was brilliant in that they actually went out. I don't think they eased all of their concerns, but I think that they certainly, we've just named all of the international or all of the local batters. They went out and they got Madhushankar, they got, Gerald Coetzee, and they fixed, they added some depth in some of that bowling attack to add to Jasprit.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually have their core 4 bowlers as really one of their strengths. And let's just talk about seam bowling. Madhushankar swings the ball. Gerald Coetzee bowls with pace, gives them something different. Jasprit is almost he's almost a unicorn.
He's reasonable, isn't he?
He's almost a unicorn in that he bowls with pace, moves the ball, can bowl at the top, can bowl in the middle, can bowl at the death. Like, he is like an all-in-one package. You just roll him out and you're going to get 4 quality, if not match-winning overs from him.
with the white ball.
Yeah, Behrendorff with the white ball does do a little bit with it, and he's probably the guy that, if you have a look at those 3 pace bowlers we've talked about, doesn't where's he going to fit in the team?
Did a nice job for them last year.
He is like a Moneyball pick, isn't he?
Yeah,
he is like he gets on base. He's not a Trent Bolt. He's
he's extremely dangerous with a new ball.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the beauty of having that all-Indian top 6 or top 5 at least is that you do have options to have overseas bowlers in that bowling attack. So you can take 2, maybe even 3 of your bowling lineup be overseas players because you've got 1 through 5 are all Indian players.
So we've talked about the pace. What about the spin? They don't really have a headliner there. They've got Chawla, Nabi, Brevis. There's no real headliner there.
And you got to 5 minutes as well, Baldy.
You're doing well.
I'm doing okay.
Really well.
I'm doing okay. Spin is a concern for me in that I don't think, other than Mohammad Nabi, who I didn't have in my first choice side, he would be the guy that would come in potentially, but I'm not sure that they've got match-winning spin options, headliner acts, and if this is a vaudeville play, he's like Piyush Chawla is not first on the billing, right? He's way down the order. I don't want to disrespect him because he's had a great career, but I don't think they have a match-winning spinner in their team. And teams that have been traditionally successful have had 1 or more match-winning teams. The concern is that not only do they not have a match winner, but they don't have a lot of options. So if it is a turning wicket, you can't throw 3 options in this Mumbai Indian lineup at teams.
Can we move on to this leadership thing? I'm going to put a stake in the ground, and I'm going to say I don't think it's a thing. I don't think that there are dressing room tensions or anything like that people are sort of talking about. What do you guys think about we're going to call it the Rohit versus Hardik?
Look, Rohit's obviously captain of, he's the president of India, essentially, isn't he? He's the captain of their test match side. The way that he leads that side is just absolutely fantastic.
He's the captain in all formats still, isn't he?
Captain in all. Is he all formats?
Yeah, I think so.
So I think he's got a pretty big job. What I'd like to have known is what the conversation was in the background. I'd really like to understand whether they had a conversation. They said, we're thinking of doing this. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, cool, I'm on board because, do you know what? I've got a big enough job as it is. So, look, I tend to agree with Raj. I don't think it's a big deal as long as they had the conversation. Be interesting to know if he was at the Ambani wedding, and then you probably can probably find out. Because if it's not, that honeymoon may well be over. If there is a little bit of politics in that as the season kicks off,
it would be really weird.
That was a good honeymoon joke, and I didn't get anything from you.
No, I liked it. I liked it.
Lol.
I think it would be really weird though, right? If surely, I don't know. I mean, maybe they don't. Maybe Hardik and Jasprit and Rohit aren't the best of mates. I have absolutely no idea. But like when you've played in a team with someone for a long time, usually you might have a sense of, to be fair, I've never like switched allegiances in a club environment. I've always been one team in one city. But I feel like wouldn't he have called them up and said, "Oh, hey, I'm going to come back"? Like I don't know. I tend to agree with you. It feels ridiculous, but then you see all of the. I mean, can you trust social media? But you see all of it, and there's still all the stuff though out there, like people reporting saying so and so has said, "Don't worry, Rohit, you can, MS Dhoni's going to retire, and you can come and captain CSK next year." Like, there's all of the stuff out there that there's still some unrest, right?
I think it's one of those things. Winning fixes everything. Yeah. If they drop a few key losses, maybe the cracks open.
Yeah,
up.
that will be the real that may be where the knives come out. But I wonder if this isn't just like. There's quite a mature group of cricketers in this side, right? Like there's a lot of these guys. You even mentioned Behrendorff, like he's a veteran. Like these guys, it feels like they're one of those kind of veteran teams that they're just going to know how to win games where maybe like on paper they shouldn't, or they find themselves in a bit of a hole, and these guys will figure out how to win. If they don't win those games and they do fall over and don't win games that they should win, that's when the leadership conversation will come out. But until then. This is a side stacked with talent. I didn't mention Shreyas Gopal. Not a great, big, huge household name, but another option that they can throw from a spin perspective and probably comes in there in that first choice side, I reckon.
Well, before you ask him for predictions, I will just say I think this is a very big season for Ishan Kishan.
Yep.
He's just lost his, his IPL contract.
Yep.
His Indian contract.
Yep.
And, there's been a lot of controversy about him going back and playing Ranji Trophy and not wanting to do that and focusing on the IPL. I think this is a big, big season for him to kind of either prove people wrong or maybe he starts to fall down the pecking order even more if he doesn't do well.
Suryakumar Yadav the same. Tilak Varma, for different reasons, also a very important season for him. We'll see what he's really made of batting at that crucial number 4 position. No Cameron Green, of course, in that side this year.
Right, well, from worried about time to nearly out of time, let's go to predictions for the Mumbai Indians. They are top of the betting. They are sitting at 4-1 with Bet365. Where are they going to finish though, Baldy?
I find that really interesting. I have them third in my list of teams. But it wouldn't be surprised me if a lot of people have them as heavy favourites, but I have them third.
Awesome. Well, we will come on to our collective predictions at the end of the episode, but that does wrap up the Mumbai Indians. We're going to move on and we're going to talk Punjab Kings. Stu, over to you.
Over to me. Okay, well, so it's a little bit of squad news for them. They added Harshal Patel in the auction, big money, someone who seems to kind of change teams every year and get big money every year. I don't have the exact stats on that, but every single time he goes for the auction seems to get a big price. They added Chris Wokes, added Riley Rousseau, a side that seems to have a very big English contingent. We're sort of starting to see that. The Delhi's got the Aussies, CSK's got the New Zealanders. Punjab King, very much English contingent with Bairstow, Livingston, Curran, Wokes.
Well, and Trevor Bayliss as the coach, I guess, has got an influence on that. He was with that with a group of those guys for a pretty decent period of time. I think 3 or 4 of them in that 2019 World Cup winning side that he coached, obviously.
Yeah, and I think actually all of them probably have a big point to prove, particularly in India. They've gone over there from a hyped campaign at the World Cup, ODI World Cup. A lot of people thought England would do very well at that tournament. They didn't do particularly well, and some of those players probably, performed less than they would have expected in that tournament. So I think from that point of view, they've got a lot to prove going into this tournament.
Let me break this down with a bit of real talk, right?
Real talk.
Real talk.
I love real talk.
There's been a lot of money on their overseas contingent. There's a massive overseas contingent here. They can only play 4 of them at a time. I see massive weaknesses in their local players, aside from the likes of Shikhar Dhawan, Rahul Chahar, Arshdeep Singh, but that's 3 players. Like, what does this look like? Their weaknesses here across the board.
Weaknesses across the
Real
board.
talk.
Real talk. Look, I do think when you look through this lineup, I think that they're a side that we'll get to predictions later, but I think that they look like one of the weaker sides on paper, and I think they are going to rely a lot on, I think, the opening attack. You just named we talked about Ashdeep Singh. You said overseas players. I think Kagiso Rabada is going to be, hugely important. And then your death bowlers in Harshal Patel, Ashdeep again. Nathan Ellis might be in that mix. But I really think that they're going to have to they're going to have to restrict sides, is the way I see them winning winning their games. And I do think Ashdeep can play a pretty significant role. Again, we talked just before about in the Mumbai situation about players that have a lot to prove and can really gain big on this tournament. I think Ashdeep is someone that can go into this tournament. I actually think he will be in that India squad almost no matter what happens in this T20 World, in the T20 World Cup squad. He's been pretty much a fixture in their squad for the last couple of years in that T20 side. But again, he can kind of put himself in the upper echelons with Jasprit and kind of say, it's me and him are going to, lead this seam attack with potentially no Shami in there for the T20 World Cup.
Have you got Bairstow keeping wicket?
I probably do. Yeah. I think that, maybe Jitesh Sharma does it. He's probably someone, I think they probably might both end up being in the lineup anyway. I really think, talking about those English guys is quite interesting. I think for them to perform well in this tournament, you're going to need big tournament from Bairstow. In particular, I think you're going to need a big tournament from Sam Curran.
Yeah.
We think about, I'm interested to get your point of view really, Binksy, because he was someone that you famously or infamously on this podcast said.
Are we going to bring this up again?
He said that he might be the next Jacques Kallis. That we kind of haven't seen that, but I would say 2 years ago, we saw him win a T20 World Cup and be the player of the final, was one of the best T20 players in the world, probably about when he got this gig. He's been pretty disappointing, I think, since then, and isn't really hitting those heights. I think he averaged about 40 with the ball, 48 with the ball in 2023. He's going to have a big year, I think, for them to turn it around.
Yeah, well, look, firstly, if anyone knows of any AI that can go back and listen to all of our podcasts, and please text me with some of the stupid shit that these boys have said at some point, because there's plenty of it, believe me. Look, I think, he's now really only a white ball player for England. I think his red ball aspirations, I think, with the emergence of some of the guys like Gus Atkinson and probably Ollie Robinson and a bunch of other options with the newer cricket ball. He's only going to play white ball cricket now. So I think he's at a stage where he's almost got to have a little bit of a reinvention and go, right, I'm going to be focusing on that. He's still a relatively young man. So that's not to say that, he doesn't sort of come back and maybe reinvigorate his test options at some point. But I don't think he's going to do it during the next 18 months through this Stokes and Stokes and McCullum regime, which seems strange, actually, because he seems exactly the type of player that would probably prosper in that environment. But look, absolutely, he needs to have a big tournament. I can't see him and Wokes playing. They're pretty similar. Wokes probably slightly better with the ball, and Curran, I think, are better. I said at the time, and I still maintain that if he'd have actually nurtured it, he'd have been a better batter than bowler. He's probably going to end up now as a pretty much a bits and pieces, Simon O'Donnell type sort of cricketer that, that's relatively white ball focused and even with bat and ball. But look, and I can see Baldy rolled in his eyes at that comment. And look, I think Livingston as well has dropped off from that England perspective. Yeah. He's no longer really someone that you're going to probably squeeze into that side, I don't think, from an England perspective. I'm talking about. In
this context, though, he is a match winner.
No, I don't think he is.
You don't think he is?
He's a little bit of a one-trick pony, to be honest. He bowled, off. Let's not even talk about it. He bowled offies and leggies, and then it's 2 sixes a game. Okay, he might get you 12 off 2, but and win you one game. But to use Baldy's over and unders, he's definitely under 2.5 man of the match performances.
Stuart, who do you have as the fourth overseas player? Because I think it's probably fair to say that Riley Rousseau, Bairstow, and Rabada are locks. I think you have to have Rousseau in that side, given his form in the last sort of 24 months or so.
Depth of batting.
And they don't have a lot of batting. Like, they don't have a lot of local batting outside Darwan and maybe Mayank Agarwal.
Don't sleep on Prabh Simran Singh. He scored a brilliant 100 last year in one of the games. So, that was his major contribution in the tournament. But young guy, he's someone for them again that they're going to have, like, someone like that is going to have to break out.
So a local player is going to have to step up. My original question,
distracting from your question.
Don't duck it.
Politician.
Don't duck it with my lack of knowledge of.
Duckett's not in the squad, mate.
Oh, he's not playing. Oh, okay. Livingston, Curran, Ellis, Wokes.
He probably taught everyone how to play T20 cricket.
Stuart, answer the question.
I actually think Bairstow. I have Livingston. I mean, they played him last year. I think he'll be an important player. Whether Rousseau can kind of, maybe he's someone who's on a short leash, and actually if he doesn't perform early on, maybe it is someone like Rousseau who comes in. But I mean, I think they'll still stick with Curran. The balance that he gives to that side, I think they're going to have to ride with him, right? He's going to have to perform with ball and come in and contribute with the bat. Whether they, at different times they put him up the order and as a way to kind of balance their side a bit better. So I think you're going to have to ride with him and then Kagiso. And so it really does only leave one spot. If you think Kagiso, Rabada, Sam Curran and Johnny Bairstow were in, you've only got one spot for, Liam Livingston, Riley Rousseau, and then, Nathan. I think Nathan Ellis is actually someone who could come in and really contribute as well. So, I don't know. I think those first three, and probably I think Livingston will get the nod because of the fact that they need some runs. They're going to be quite heavily reliant on Darwan, who is just a super consistent player for so long. He, averaged 40. You go through and you look, he averages 40 pretty much every season. You can kind of just lock that down, and Bairstow to get the runs.
I feel like a lot of people like to have the knives out for him, though, even though he is such a good contributor.
We're into the final minute. So on the betting, Punjab Kings right down the bottom, 12-1. So same odds as the Knight Riders. So down the bottom is the prediction from the bookmakers. What's the prediction from Stu Lipshaw?
I think sadly I have to agree. I think they're really going to struggle. I mean, I had them ninth on my table, but I think it's going to be a tough year. Look, I love some of the players in their side, but I just don't think that they have the overall team, and I don't really see where the 500-600 runs are going to kind of come from a number of enough players to build out that squad.
Awesome. Well, as we said, we'll come on to predictions for the tournament at the end of the show. But that does wrap up the Punjab Kings preview. We're going to move on now and talk about another Regal naming sound. Regal, you know what I'm trying to say. Regal sounding name. That's the one. Yeah. And 2 Catalina lagers, and all of a sudden I'm in trouble.
It's been a long recording.
Other beverages are available.
they are.
Like water.
Yes. So the Royals, these are a pick of mine, and I think I've historically picked them as a side that's had a large English contingent in past years. This year, that only includes, though, Jos Buttler is a pretty good English contingent player to have in your side, and Yorkshire's Tom Kohler-Cadmore, who has been in and around that England Lions setup. I don't think he's far away from potentially further international honours. And look, again, I'm probably going to say why I think they can win this. When you look at the squad list, or when I look at the squad list, they've got batting firepower. They've got Butler, they've got Sanju Samson, they've got Shimron Hetmeyer, they've got Jaiswal, who's obviously learned heaps and heaps from Ben Duckett over the course of the last 4 or 5 months.
Shame that Duckett's not in the squad to teach him how to play T20 cricket as well.
Yes, that was a joke. And then look,
Jaiswal is such a good player.
He's a gun, isn't he?
I love Jaiswal. We could just talk about him for 10 minutes. If you want.
And look, how he translates that Test match form into this, like hitting old Tom Hartley, poor bloke, for 2 sixes in his first over of Test cricket. But look, they've also got some other options in there with Dhruv Jural, who really impressed me. Not only with the gloves, but with the bat in this Test series, and he looks as if he's got the ability and the gumption, if you want to call it that, to have a really big season. And then Shubham Dubey as well. I know you're a big fan.
It's the other Dubey.
Oh, the other Dubey. Okay.
Yeah, the other Dubey I'm a fan of.
And then they've also got Rovman Powell as well, who, if he doesn't have the best name in the tournament, is pretty close to it, and he can offer some firepower with the bat as well. But yeah, question marks for me are the bowling, which I'm sure will come on. They've got some really good spin options in Ravi Ashwin and obviously Yuzvendra Chahal. But then I think, Trent Bolt is in there, and I know we'll potentially talk about him. But I think they might struggle with some of that seam bowling backup. Potentially is where I've got my question marks on the Royals.
Seam bowling depth is maybe an issue. I mean,
before we get there, can you mentioned Dhruv Jurel? Can we talk a little bit about where he might fit into the side? Because
does he fit in?
Yeah, and does he fit in? I mean, I feel like he probably will because of the way that he's just performed so well for India. He's found, I feel like you have to put him in somewhere, but where do you put him in? You named those guys, Butler, Jaiswal, Sampson, Hetmeyer.
Which is a weird one because
where does Jurel go?
5, 6? Probably started the season last year. You were kind of looking at that side and going, well, which way are they going to go? And Butler didn't keep wicket for all of the season, and Sampson did. So I think then you've got to question, well, you could have gone with Butler. You went with Sampson. He did really, really well and actually scored runs as well. He was well up the run charts.
Yeah.
So to get another guy that can keep wicket in there, and to go back to Baldy's point about having that bowling option in your top 5, Butler certainly doesn't bowl. I don't know whether there's some filthy off spinners coming out of either Dhruv Jurel or Sanju Samson, but I wouldn't have thought so. So it'd be interesting to see where he might go. I've got a sneaky feeling that with that kind of firepower, the option they might look to go with if they want to get him into the side is he might need to bat somewhere near the top of the order. And we've seen Butler operate in a number of different roles. I still think he's best at the top of the order.
You have to keep him at the top,
But again, I think they've got some permutations there. And I think, again, from an Indian cricket perspective, I think, it's a little bit of an Instagram and a marketing dream that he's had a really good finish to that Test series. You'd maybe want to get him in the in the side for the socials, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I just mean it will create a bit of a buzz that you've got a guy that's done really, really well in Test cricket slotting into your IPL side as well.
As you said, he feels like he's got the gumption, that he'll pull something off.
There is something about that kid. There really, really is. No matter, I don't think it will matter where he plays in the team, whether he's at 4, which allows Hetmeyer, it allows maybe one of those top guys to come in at 6 potentially, or whether he bats up at the top of the order or even at 3. And then Samson bats at 4, something like that.
And he's a proper keeper. He's a good keeper.
I actually really like the bowling lineup for Rajasthan. You had some questions around the pace bowling. Trent Bolt, Avesh Khan, Prasadi Krishna.
Yeah. Krishna's out all the tournament, unfortunately.
That's a real out
that's
for
a
them.
big blow.
Well, I give up then.
Yeah, because depth then becomes an issue, right?
Just had surgery on his quad, yeah.
Navdeep Saini's there. They have bowlers, then the spinners. Chahal, down on form, but see what he can do. And Adam Zampa, I think, has the potential to be a big weapon. Don't know if he makes the side based on the overseas stuff.
Can they get the 3 of those guys in the side, do you reckon? Ashwin, Chahal and Zampa. I mean, there'll certainly be games, I think, where, you think of the Chepak or somewhere like that, where that's might be a spin option, but it's whether they can fit those guys into the same team and use an overseas player on your Indian, or, use an overseas player on a spinner when you already have 2 spinners of that quality.
And I don't want to be a negative Nelly, but Bolt, Zampa, Chahal, that's a long tail.
Yeah,
that's a long tail.
I always think if you're worried about whether your number 9 can bat in a T20, it's time to give up.
Possibly,
yeah.
But 185 for 7 is not an unheard of score in a T20, right? And if your number 9 can't get you 10 in the last over, is that problematic? I don't know. I would much rather take the 10 wickets and be chasing 145 than 185, but, that might be a consideration.
And who might bowl the overs in the power play if you play 3 spinners as well is probably the other thing on smaller grounds.
In terms of 2020 theory, I'm going to come to you, Baldy, on this one.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just wanted to put him on the spot.
Yeah, fair enough.
a lot of sides these days are, they're picking 6, 7 all-rounders, genuine all-rounders that can play 2020 cricket.
Yeah.
Rajasthan's gone the other way. They have definitely picked out-and-out batsmen, out-and-out bowlers, definitely on the bowlers side of things.
Yep.
As you mentioned, they have the potential to have a very, very long tail at any point in any of these horses for courses selections. What do you make of that, going down that route for Rajasthan?
Yeah, a real challenge for them because it does limit their ability to throw different looks at opposition, right? They have effectively got, and please don't disrespect Rian Parag or any of those kind of other guys, but they've got 6 genuine bats by the look of it in their first 11. They've got 5 genuine bowlers. Ravi Ashwin gives you a little bit with the bat, but he's probably the guy in that lineup that bats at 7. Depending on what they do with, I guess, with Rovman Powell and some other different combinations and stuff. But, that is potentially a bit of a problem for Rajasthan. And I think it's the only weakness that I can see in the makeup of their team, in that they don't have a gun all-rounder. They don't have a Marsh or a gun West Indian like Dre Russ, Pollard type of player that can stitch the 5-6 position together with bat and ball, give them a 6th bowling option.
Before we get predictions from Binksy, we're New Zealand focus here. Well, what do we want to see from Trent Boult in this tournament? Because I think actually he's certainly when he's played for New Zealand in the last 12 months, I don't think it's been quite what we had hoped. He hasn't been poor, I don't think by any means, but we have in our heads Trent Boult's going to come in and be the best bowler on the park, and I don't think we've seen that from him. This is his lead up to the T20 World Cup that we, again, hope that he performs really well at. What are we hoping to see from him in this tournament?
Well, I think, I don't know if maybe he has some confusion. When he was at Mumbai, he had a very clear role. Go out there with the new ball, take wickets in that first 4-6 overs, depending on how you go. We don't know if he has that role within this team, and that affects how he plays this game. But I would love to see him go out there and take that role up.
Bowl like 3 up front or something.
3 up front, take a couple of wickets, job done, come back later in the innings and just bowl some cutters or something.
I will say the one plus that he has in that fact, Shane Bond has switched from Mumbai to Rajasthan. Maybe the biggest trade of the IPL. You guys are all on Hardik Pandya or all these other ones. Avish Khan even in this for Rajasthan, I think was a good get for them. Yeah. But, Bondy, don't sleep on the impact of Shane Bond on their bowling attack.
Fair enough.
Binksy, predictions?
Yeah, look, 6th in the betting this year compared with 5th in the competition. And I think they go at least one better. I think they can get into that top 4. Look, I think, we talk about that lack of an all-rounder. They've got, a keeper who's going to be able to bat in the top 3 or 4 and, balance the side in that way. Yeah, the question mark for me probably is, who backs up Abesh and Bolt from a seam perspective if they need it. But, I think they've got a chance this year, the Roars. Winners of the inaugural tournament. So, be nice to see him.
Doesn't have much relevance now, but
no,
it's a good point you make.
Still 1-1.
Show your historical knowledge of the IPL.
I was just filling the 18 seconds until we get to the end.
It's a segue into a team that hasn't won one.
Well, which is just ruined. But anyway, but that does wrap up the Rajasthan Royals preview. We'll move swiftly on now. I'm glad I'm coming to you, Raj.
Baldy's lost it over there.
Only one with any decorum on this podcast. Let's talk about the RCB.
Baldy's got a lot of sun today. You can see that.
Made it even worse by the laughter. Thank you, Raj.
RCB. So I always love talking about RCB. They are the glamour team along with the Mumbai Indians. Squad changes. Harshal, Hazelwood and Hasaranga. 3 H's all cut in the off-season, released, which shows a real intent, I think, to change how they have bowled. And that being a weakness for them over the last season or so. They added the likes of Lockie Ferguson, Joseph Joseph, his brother, and Tom Curran from an overseas perspective. Akash Deep, who played the 4th test against England, is also part of the RCB squad.
I like that.
Yet to make play a game, I believe, in the IPL. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he'll be an important cog in their bowling lineup, I think. From a squad changes perspective, that's what I've got. I just wanted to come into the where I think they're going to struggle before we talk about the positive stuff.
Oh, a bit more hard talk.
Yeah, a little bit of real talk.
Sorry.
Yeah. And it's the same old story. I was saying to you earlier that I feel like a bit of a broken record talking about RCB. It's the same thing every year, I feel, but it looks to be a weakened bowling attack in general, and definitely in the sort of spin department in particular. Maxwell, I think, will end up doing a lot of their spin bowling. The likes of Khan Sharma and Mayank Daga are also there from a local perspective, but relative no-names, if I can be a little bit disrespectful, not intentionally, relative no-names on the international scene. So that is a weakness for them. Will Jacks, Reece Topley, English contingent, they're in the squad, but I think fitting them in is going to be a problem. Either of them being selected will be a real sort of horses for courses lineup selection, I think. But at the end of the day, from a weaknesses perspective for RCB, they just need to avoid having to chase or set 200 every game.
Yeah,
that's what they had to do a lot last year. And yeah, that leads us to what their success is, their batting. But do we want to focus on the
well, the Hasaranga one was so fascinating. I mean, fair enough that they released him. They make decisions on who can keep, and you can't keep everyone. But I do think it was really fascinating that he went for such a low figure. In the auction. I mean, it wouldn't have taken a lot to pick him up again, and you add him into this lineup, and suddenly their bowling attack just looks so much more balanced. Without him now, yeah, like you say, I mean, that when I wrote down my concerns, it's exactly it. It's the same things that you've just mentioned: spin bowling, and then seam bowling depth in general.
It's weird. I don't mind their seam bowling depth, but I think it's odd that it's a bit like Mumbai. Their spin is their weakness, and we think that. No spoiler, but I think they're going to be two of the strongest sides in the competition. Both of them have, I think, weaknesses in their spin bowling department. It'll be fascinating for me to see what they do with that pace bowling contingent, particularly the overseas guys, because you've got Topley, you've got Ferguson, you've got Alzari Joseph, and you've got Tom Curran, all overseas fast bowlers, to fit into one, maybe two spots, depending on how you kind of look at this lineup.
It'll be one spot, won't it? It'll be Cam Green, Glenn Maxwell, and Faf. So they've only got one guy to fit in there, and they might just have to go, well, who's going to be the hot hand today? Who do we think is going to make a difference today? I wouldn't want to say no. Alzari Joseph, you're not in the team.
Well, who are you going to tell?
He's got the scariest face, I think, in international cricket.
Well, you talked about sort of the England national setup. Will Jacks, and then sort of bringing that back to the IPL?
Yeah, I mean, Will Jacks, I think, really is there as backup at the top of the order, isn't he? If a Faf or a Carter gets injured, really, he's an opening bat, I think, now in T20 cricket, who offers a little bit with the ball. He's not.
Is that enough in India? Maybe not in the IPL.
Yeah, look, I don't know, but I think that's why he's there, and I don't think he'll let you down. And I think from a white ball perspective, I actually think he's probably one of the very next cabs off the rank to be in both the 20 over and the 50 over format sides as a regular for England, as they build into that T20 World Cup and then obviously the next 4-year cycle. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him playing a lot more for England. Topley's the more interesting one out of the two for me. I actually think he plays in that side, or I would pick him. I think his record in recent times has been pretty good. His paces have been up there, and then he's got a number of different off-pace deliveries. So I actually think if you kind of look at what his stats look like from a strike rate and an economy perspective, and what he offers as a left arm option as well. Personally, and look, this is not an England versus New Zealand thing, but he'd be ahead of Ferguson for me in that pick if they are going to pick one overseas seamer to slot into that side, and it looks like they're going to have to do that.
Where do you have the seam attack kind of going, Raj? You got lots of options there, but you can only pick one. Who are you going with?
So Alzari Joseph, I think, gets the first cab off the rank anyway. He'll go out there and we'll see how he performs, and then we'll change it up. I don't know what kind of pitches they're going to play on. The RCB home ground, which is eluding me at the moment, is not a favourable one for bowlers.
It feels like it's a good batting track. I mean, they score a lot of runs there, but I think that could be as much about their top six as it has been about anything else.
And surely that's a segue now. We're 4 minutes to go. Let's talk. Let's talk about the batting, but can we focus a little bit on Virat? Because I've seen a few things lately about will he make this T20 World Cup squad, which if that's the case and that's some of the chatter out there, I feel like this is a big tournament for him. He's just missed a marquee series, had his reasons for missing that. But, he's going to want to come back and really kind of dominate this tournament, isn't he?
You saw him at the World Cup, scored runs coming out of everywhere. He will be picked if he is fit. I do think this is an important IPL, but every IPL is important because they need him to score runs to win. That's what it comes down to. But I had a great line to come in that RCB is synonymous with Virat Kohli, and Virat Kohli is synonymous with batting, which is the massive strength of the RCB here. Faf scored 730 runs last year.
Great year last year.
Really good year. Kohli, Padita, Maxwell, Green, Kartik. It's not hard to imagine any of these guys coming off big in a game. Or multiple ones.
Can I ask you about Patidar? Does he have a real point to prove? Because in the Test series, he looked like the one guy who was kind of not quite on the same level as everybody else, right? Like all the other guys who came into that Indian batting lineup looked like if you kept picking them, they wouldn't be out of place. But Patidar just kind of, you kind of got that feeling, maybe it's only a limited sample size or whatever, but just kind of got that feeling.
Out in a few rough ways as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he got a couple of rough decisions, but just didn't quite look like he was at the same level as everyone else. Does he have a point to prove, do you think?
I would look at it with a different mindset in that he has real big opportunity here because he is going to be picked because of the makeup of the batting lineup and the overseas players. He is going to be picked. He has a real opportunity to lay down, put his flag in the mountain about being picked for that 2020 World Cup side.
Where does he get picked, though? Because you've got Maxwell probably at 4.
I think he gets picked at 3.
He gets picked at 3, then you've got Green at 5.
Unless Virat Kohli wants to bat at 3, then there's a little bit of a shift. I don't know what goes at Green at 5. Yes.
Yeah, Green at 5,
Kartik at 6.
Virat opens, and then Kartik comes in the finisher. Correct. Yeah, that's the order that I kind of have settled on as well. I'm glad you did as well. So that means you've got it right.
That's good. Thank you.
Well done, you.
Yeah, I just wanted to focus on a couple of things in the last 2 minutes. From a bowling perspective, as part of the success factors, it's going to be early wickets. Whoever takes that new ball with SRH, whether that is Akashdeep or one of the overseas players, that is going to determine a lot of RCB's wins. From a sort of numbers perspective, only twice last year were they asked to chase under 200 runs.
Holy shoot.
186, or when they were chasing, 186, they've set a lot of scores rather than chasing, but 186 against Sunrisers, 171 against Mumbai. They won both of those games by 8 wickets.
Wow.
Right. And the list of scores that they failed to defend last year, 212 against LSG, 181 against Delhi Caps, 199 against Mumbai, 197 against Gujarat. They also scored 218 against CSK, but they were chasing 226. They failed to chase 200 against KKR as well. If they are going to win games, it's going to come down to taking wickets early to stop those big scores from happening, because they're going to score the runs. They are going to score the runs pretty much every game.
Equal 4th in the betting with the Super Giants. Raj, where are they going to finish in the tournament, do you think?
I have them at 3. There is probably a little bit of heart overhead there. Yeah. I think that sort of 3 to 6 or 3 to 7 can be very interchangeable at the moment. There are a lot of similar teams, but I've got them at 3. I think that 2020 cricket's about batting. If they look to have sorted a little bit of their bowling issues, I think that they can win a few more games off the bat.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up our preview of the RCB. Those eagle-eyed amongst you will know that means we now come on to the final team in our second preview show. Am I coming to you, Michael?
No, we're going over that way.
I just wonder why you're rubbing your hands.
Oh, because there's so many good fun things to talk about here.
We might sing.
So let's stick 10 minutes on the clock, Raj, and we're going to talk Sunrisers Hyderabad.
Sunrisers Hyderabad, a very busy team during the auction and in the off season. New Zealand link Daniel Vettori, although maybe Australia's going to claim him now that he's part of their setup and brought a lot of Australians along with him. Replaces Brian Lara. James Franklin's actually come in for Dale Steyn. So unfortunately, we won't get to see Dale Steyn's beautiful hair in this tournament, which is a real shame, certainly from my point of view. But yeah, busy at the auction. Pat Cummins came along and made him the captain as well. They've added Travis Head, Hasaranga, and Unadkat as well, some of the big names that have come along. I think maybe the place to start is to have a conversation about what they've done, because it was a big feature when we talked about the auction. They basically now have like 7 or 8 guys for their overseas players, and they can only fit 4 of them in, but it is an impossible decision if you ask me.
So let's list them. Glenn Phillips.
Yep.
Heinrich Klaassen. Pat Cummins. Hasaranga. Travis Head. Marco Janssen. Aiden Markram. And Faruqi.
Yeah.
So they've got 8 that could all potentially play. Now, I think we can probably say that Faruqi's not quite there, although he has played some pretty good cricket of late. But how do you fit those 7 guys, all of them quality internationals, into the 4 spots? And where, right? Where? Because the balance of the side depends a lot on where you put those 4 guys.
And can I also say, I think lack of depth in wicket keepers has almost forced their hands.
Klaassen plays in heaps.
To play Klaassen.
I think you have to play Klaassen anyway, don't you? I mean, he's just such an impactful player, 5-6 sort of range. I mean, Pat Cummins is obviously going to be there because he's the captain. I think Klaassen's kind of the second person I'd be putting on that list in terms of, overseas players. But then, you throw your hands up. It becomes a question, I think, of like, do you want the Aussie guys or do you want the South African guys? Because, Travis Head, I think you can probably. I don't know if Travis Head you can play Travis Head and Aiden Markram. I think one of those guys has to they're going to be pitting off against each other. And Markram was the captain last year. Yeah. He's a damaging player as well.
Tell me
genuinely could throw your hands up and
tell me where the weakness is in this team, right? Because that's what you need to plug with the international player. You've got so if you said you've got Cummins, Hasaranga, and Klaassen, are they the 3 overseas that you've picked so far?
Well, I think I would have Hasaranga because, you've got Washington Sundar in there, but I think that having Hasaranga and Sundar in the middle there can really, really strengthen what you do with the rest of your side. I mean, you again, if you think it's a seam attack, I think Hasaranga and Marco Janssen will be kind of the interchangeable players in terms of that. They'll probably have to, if you're thinking balance of the side stuff, you'll have to go, okay, well, today we think it's going to spin more. We're going with Hasaranga, Janssen on the flip side. But I think that those 3 are in. So it really comes down for me what they can get out of their Indian seam attack, because you look at the guys that they've had on paper, there's a lot of recognizable names, right? You've got Bhuvi Kumar, who I think is a reliable player and has been a reliable player for them for a long time, apart from getting injured every now and again. But then there's Umran Malik, Natarajan, Unadkat, Markande. There's a lot of guys there who, particularly Umran Malik, who fascinates me because he's someone that can bowl absolute wheels. But, last year just completely lost it. He bowled average of 43, economy rate of 10. And if those guys, and, if him and Natarajan, if they can't find an attack out of their Indian seamers, then they're going to have to start using, then someone like Marco Janssen has to play. And then that changes everything with what you're going on.
Yeah, I still think they've got enough there. Like they've got basically 2 spots to fill from Bhuvi Kumar, Umran Malik, Natarajan, and Unadkat. I think there's enough cattle there to fill those 2 spots. And if one isn't performing, there's next guy up mentality in that they've got some guys that can fill that. I think the real question mark is where do they need their last player to be in the batting lineup?
So my question for you guys, and this is, I don't often get the chance to be non-partisan, but where you've got Hasaranga, you've got a bit of Washington Sundar from a spin perspective. Are you going to need the bowling option of Travis Head or Glenn Phillips? Glenn Phillips is obviously really impressed in this Test series, so we've got some recency bias there. But if you put it down to which of those 2 is your best overseas batter, when I'm looking at the permutations, that's what it comes down to be honest, is, which of those two are you going to pick? From Phillips and Head, both explosive players. Phillips is probably going to come in lower in the order, isn't he? Whereas Head gives you an option to bat him at the top of the order or near the top of the order, or he can come in at 5. Both reasonable fielders, but Phillips would edge that.
Phillips is by far the better fielder.
But what I'm saying is that, neither of them are rubbish. Yeah. Who do they pick out of those two, or is that not the question?
I just, obviously I am biased, but just Glenn Phillips, the strength he brings with his batting, the ability to close a game, or if they lose a few wickets early, bat the innings and then close the game, is just so crucial to me. I'm surprised that. I mean, I understand why we probably we've faded him a little bit, but I think that he would be a massive cog of any team, especially this team, when you've got the likes of Travis Head and Glenn Phillips himself, who could bowl spin that is sort of fired in there. It's not slow, loopy spin. They can fire it and stop runs at one end and attack from the other. Warindu Hasaranga, if he doesn't take wickets with the ball, he becomes a lot less valuable to the team.
Yeah. So he might be a guy that misses out so that they can play Phillips and Head, because I like talk to me about the batting, Stu.
Well,
without their overseas, what does that look like?
Well, exactly. Yeah, I think that you've got people in there. You've got Abhishek Sharma, who I really rate as a younger player. But then you've got whether you fit in guys like Agarwal, Tripathi, and then Abdul Samad. Like it's compared with some of the other batting lineups that we've talked about from a local Indian perspective, it's not exactly blockbuster in terms of what they can offer. So I think you're right in terms of they're going to have to figure out where do we want to strengthen with these overseas players, because I love anyone who's listened to this podcast for any length of time knows that I love Glenn Phillips. But I think when they're on the depth chart, when he's on the depth chart with these names, I reckon he's probably just above Faruqi. I really think that he's going to struggle to get a game just with the way that he's been used for the last 2 years.
I reckon they need him. I reckon they need his explosiveness in the middle order. I know they've got Klaas and I know they've got Abhishek, but they're going to need Glenn Phillips. And I think
that's the issue for Phillips, though, that Klaasen fills that role. I think that the power hitter is going to be Klaasen in that lineup, and maybe they might want to get Travis Head in there so that they can have someone to really go at the top of the order to bat with Sharma there. If they don't think that Agarwal is, quite up to it to doing that at this stage. I mean, I think Tripathi will be in there somewhere at 3 or 4. And then, they could go Travis Head, Aidan Markram, Heinrich Klaasen, and then have Pat Cummins. If they can trust those Indian bowlers, then they can really strengthen that batting with all of these names that we've had. And that's why I really do think that local Indian seam attack can really play a massive part to the success of them, because it can have such an impact on what they do with the rest of their lineup.
I'd have Phillips ahead of Markram. I know Markram is a great cricketer, but I just think Phillips, over or under, how many games is Phillips going to win off his own shoulder, off his own bat? In the field. He could win you. I mean, we looked at that test match. That catch he took to dismiss Labuschagne. Lots of people have talked it up, talked it down, whatever. Not many people in world cricket get their body into that position to take that catch. And if he does that twice in the tournament, that could be the difference between winning a game and finishing 4th and losing a game and finishing 6th. I think they have to pick him.
I'd love to see it, but I just don't think they will. But I would absolutely love it.
And I completely agree with why you said that.
Yeah.
And Baldy's just trying to moz it so that Travis Head plays, right?
No. I have them both in the team. I have them both in the team.
You have them both?
Yeah, I have them both. I have Phillips, Head, Klaasen, and Cummins. And Hasaranga comes in.
That was a late change.
A late change, yeah. I did not start that way. But I've convinced myself over the course of this 10 minutes to make that change. I'm nothing if not flexible.
Awesome.
Right. 8th in the betting, the Sunrisers. Where are they going to finish, Lip?
I think they'll be much better than that. I do think that they'll be a playoff side. I've got them sliding into 4th. I tend to agree with Raj that a lot of teams are interchangeable, but Captain Cummins, he's just the golden boy at the moment. Honestly, everything he touches seems to turn to gold. I think he'll contribute with bat and ball in this tournament. I think he's going to be an important player for them, and I think they'll slide into this tournament and pretty much upset some people.
Right, Well, that wraps up the team's preview with the Sunrisers Hyderabad, our final team in this IPL preview. If you haven't watched episode 1, I'm not sure what you're doing. Go back and watch episode 1, which covers the first 5 teams. We are now going to talk, though, a little bit about what we think our predictions are going to be for the final 4 teams and our individual predictions for winner as well. If you want to throw in your orange and purple caps, at orange for batting, purple for bowling, feel free to do so. We are going to time box this as well, so you can't have every single New Zealander as a potential for that orange cap. I'm going to start.
I'm impressed that you know the colours.
Yeah, I looked him up earlier on.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. Do you know what the blue cap's for?
No idea.
No, neither do I.
Is there a blue cap?
I don't know. I bet there is, because there's about 14 Man of the Match awards. So yeah, the blue cap for the best Gatorade mixer, or
that's Adam Zampa.
Whoever
put that right down right now.
Gatorades and flat whites.
No, with both. He's so talented that he can mix both Gatorade and coffee.
Right.
I'm ready to start the time box.
Sorry.
You should have started a minute ago. Right. We're gonna go left to right from my perspective. So Lippy, I'm gonna start with you. Top 4, and your winner as well.
Do you want to win it? You don't want to go
We're
back?
gonna go top 4,
and then come back.
All right, okay.
Exciting.
So I got to make the
we're
format.
going to have
All right,
some
fair enough,
excitement,
all right.
don't we?
You want some suspense? Fair enough. Go on then.
Mumbai, Rajasthan, CSK, Sunrisers.
That's not what you have written down.
It is.
You've switched them around.
Well, they're the 4 playoff sides.
All right.
I was just thinking that I might have named when we did the CSK and when I did CSK and Sunrisers. I think there's a highly likely chance now that I might have said that they both finished 3rd. Okay. But anyway, I think they'll both be playoff sides. Yeah. There you go.
CSK started at the top for me, and they've actually finished in 6th after I've gone through and looked through every team.
Just no Conway.
Yeah, big, massive Conway. My top 4, I've got Mumbai, Rajasthan Royals, RCB, and the Gujarat Titans as my top 4.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So we've got Mumbai and Rajasthan so far, both unanimous. You're going to keep that up, Binksy?
I probably am, actually. Yeah, so I think I'm surprised with the betting in the tournament. So Mumbai ahead of the Titans this year, which is strange on last year's form. But the Heart are going to rule ahead with a couple of my picks. But I am going to go with Mumbai, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and the Knight Riders.
You just can't quit them.
I'm not going to. No.
Fair enough.
Brilliant. So far we've got 6 teams named. Is that right? 6 teams.
Yeah,
named.
but we've all got 3.
We all like Mumbai and we all like Rajasthan.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool.
And me and Binksy.
You going to keep that up?
I like Mumbai and Rajasthan. I'm happy with that.
There we go. 2 unanimous teams.
I think RCB are going to make the playoffs, and I think that CSK are going to make the playoffs
Alongside
Mumbai and Rajasthan.
Okay.
So it's those 4.
So we've all got Mumbai.
All got Rajasthan.
All got Rajasthan. Okay.
So I have Gujarat and Sunrisers and KKR not making it. They're the other ones that we talked about.
Yeah. Okay. Are we going to go winners or are we going to go hats first?
Oh, let's just go winners and then
winners.
Then we'll pick a name out of a hat.
Mumbai.
Royals.
I don't mind that, actually.
I'm picking Mumbai to win it.
Let's go the Sunrisers.
Oh.
We are the Sunrisers. Captain Cummins.
No way.
Captain Cummins.
So we've got 2 for Mumbai, 1 for the Sunrisers, and one for the Royals. And then
Sunrisers are a long way down in the betting. There's money to be made.
You need to put one of your hard-earned dollars on that. Because
there's money to be made.
Yeah, so recap on the betting. Mumbai at the top, then the Chennai Super Kings, then where do we go? Then we go to Gujarat, then we go the RCB and Lucknow, then the Royals, then the Sunrisers, then the Caps, and then Punjab Kings and the Knight Riders.
If you bet with some of these lesser-known bookmakers, you could turn that $1 into as many as $12 in 8 weeks. Now that's good. That's good returns.
I'm very excited about that.
Gamble responsibly. Set yourself a reasonable limit, because chances are you'll lose next.
Right.
That's not aimed at you, Stuart.
Let's go with hats. So we'll go with the batting hat and then the bowling hat.
Okay, I think that Virat Kohli is going to have a massive year. I think he's got a point to prove, and I think that he's going to pile on the runs for RCB. But if you look at my predictions, it's not going to be enough to make them into the side, into the playoffs. And I actually think the same with the bowlers. I think it'll be Arshdeep Singh. I just loved what he does. I think he's primed for taking wickets because he bowls at the front and can bowl really well at the death. And so I think he's someone that will be right in the mix for whatever colour cap you said that was.
Orange is the batting. And purple.
I don't think he'll win the orange one then.
Yeah.
He'll win
Orange
the purple.
batting, purple bowling. Yeah.
With my batting, I have picked Shubman Gill. The added responsibility, building on good form, good season last year. I think he's going to top 1,000 runs.
1,000 runs in 14 games. That's a lot of runs.
Wiggles got 900 last year.
Jeez.
And then with the bowling, I think, we talked about Mumbai and how they've done really well at auction. I 100% agree with that. The bowlers that they've brought in to their side are going to elevate them this year. But it also means that Jasprit Bumrah is not going to be able to just be padded away. They're going to have to try and score off him, and that will mean he's going to take wickets. Jasprit Bumrah. Shubman Gill, Jasprit Bumrah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I have a little bit more time? Because I have to come up with 2 new names now.
Oh, you can go with
the same names.
You can go with the same names if you want, but I'm going to go with different names.
Okay, good. You can do that. I'll think of some more names.
So I am going to do, this is where I'm going to be relatively scientific because I think,
okay.
Yeah, for me,
don't hurt yourself.
In that I've picked Rajasthan to win. So from a Rajasthan perspective, I think Sanju Samson is going to bat at the top of the order. And I think he could be the orange cap winner. And then the other guy that I really want to see do well in this tournament, I talked about it earlier on, is Mitchell Starc. So I'm going to have Mitchell Starc for the purple one.
Nice.
You're really all in, eh? That KKR.
Yeah.
Sanju Samson, if he gets leading run score in this tournament, that will throw a cat amongst the pigeons in terms of that India World Cup squad. That'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like cats and I like pigeons.
I like it. Baldy, what have you got for us?
Well, I'm not going to pick. I had Shubman Gill and Jasprit Bumrah genuinely in my head for reasonably similar reasons that Raj had. So we can't agree. So I'm going to go with something different. So just for being different, I'm going to go with Jaswal to be the top run scorer for the tournament. For obvious reasons, he's in form. I had considered Rohit and Kishan, but no, Jaswal's my man. I have to pick someone other than Jasprit. Do you have Arshdeep Singh, Stu?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is great podcast.
Yeah, you can't just
Shut up.
You can't just pick them,
I really want to see the audience retention stats now.
Shut up.
It's just going to be a graph like that.
Shut up. All right, I'll have Rabada.
I like it.
Yeah.
Rabada.
So I've picked your guy next door and your guy next door. I'll have that. I'll have Rabada.
Right. Awesome. So there you go. If any of you are new to the podcast, please make sure you hit like or subscribe. If you can, share it with a friend or family member or colleague. That would be really, really helpful as well. It really does help us continue to put out a little bit of content with the 4 cents of you that we get on some platforms. The other thing I just want to say, boys, it's been a pleasure talking some IPL cricket. For all of our listeners and viewers, we do have a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek attitude at times throughout the course of this podcast. So please keep the comments nice and clean. We are deliberately controversial at times. But look, we hope you've enjoyed our IPL preview for 2024. As we said, this is the second part of 2. If you haven't watched part 1, please jump back in your feed. And if you do want to share your favourite team's little snippet as well, you'll find individual previews for each team coming up in your YouTube feed at some point as well. If you're listening to the podcast on audio, it will just be the 2 podcasts. Episode 1 covering the first 5 teams. Episode 2, this one covering the second 5 teams and our overall predictions for the IPL, which gets away in a little under a week's time. We will, of course, be in your feed throughout the course of that IPL. We won't quite be coming to you daily as we did last year, but we will be making sure that we record several times throughout the course of each week, even if it is just for some snippets from the IPL. That concludes, I think, late May, 26th of May. I think I've got in my head as the date for...
And then straight rolling into that T20 World Cup.
Yeah.
So non-stop T20 cricket for a while.
It is going to be interesting, isn't it, when those World Cup squads come out? And I'm sure we'll be previewing the World Cup as well at some point in the very, very near future. The cricket just keeps on coming. But it is now good night and God bless from us all here in Auckland, New Zealand, with our Indian Premier League preview show for 2024. It's in the can. Good night. God bless.